Hey guys, so for the oral project, I'm going to take you on a little trip to my hometown, especially because recently there's been some backlash in the community in regards to protecting the environment from big business. Let's go check it out. At a certain season of life, we are accustomed to consider every spot as a possible site of a home. Behind me is what remains of the old steel mill, which first opened in 1904. By 1999, it first filed for bankruptcy, and by the year 2000, it reported $6.9 million in losses, which ultimately led to its shutdown. The area around it sits mostly vacant and abandoned as the neighboring residents search for the next big industry. After many lost their jobs at this steel mill, the Goodyear plant about 10 miles east continued to employ the people of Gadsden. They employed over 4,000 workers in just a few decades. But things quickly took a dark turn. By February of 2020, Goodyear laid off 500 employees before announcing their shutdown just a few months later. The shutdown was largely due to the fact that Goodyear realized they could take their business to Mexico and exploit cheap labor. Both of these plants caused tremendous damage to the environment. Production of steel emits nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, PM2, and carbon monoxide, while rubber production earns a place on the Toxic 100 list released by the Political Economy Research Institute. So where do the people draw the line between economic security and consumption and environmental protection? Well, the people of Gadsden finally took a shift when Pilgrim's Pride proposed a rendering plant project in late 2020 to increase the job market after the shutdown of Goodyear. Hundreds of people turned up to protest, and after about a year of protesting, the people won and the rendering plant proposition was canceled. Rendering plants often dump their waste into waterways, and their waste contains high amounts of FOGs, which when dumped in the water can have detrimental effects on the environment as a whole. So why do you guys like coming to Nakalula Falls?
Well, we live here. We've lived here all of our lives, and it's just a great place to come. And I think we were talking about this the other day. I think people who live here have a tendency to forget what a great natural resource it is, and it's truly, in comparison to other state parks and places that you go, it's every bit as wonderful, if not more wonderful. It's right here in our backyard.
Same. We've
Thank
been
you.
coming here our whole lives. So, yeah, it's great to experience the outdoors.
Does that work?
Yes,
That's
thank
good?
you so much.
Okay,
I
you're
happen to
welcome.
have grown up here. If you could see through the trees, you could see the house I grew up in, and there were softball fields where the main parking lot is now, and there were tennis courts across from Jack's. So my whole life was around the falls.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my son, and he's been coming up here with me since,
My childhood.
yeah, all his childhood. We've done the gorge and walked this trail. I walk it several times a week, and there are regulars at different times of days. You see the same people each time you come. So this is just part of our yard.
Well, thank you guys. Why do you guys like coming to Nakalula Falls?
We like hiking.
That's it.
Yeah,
Beauty.
basically because of beautiful
I've been
scenery.
waiting for this moment to become famous.
Good bit of hiking trails.
Yay!
It's just a good view overall.
Yeah.
Get down there under the falls, good trail.
Well, thank you guys.
Well, you're welcome.
Every morning was a cheerful invitation to make life of equal simplicity, and I may say innocence, with nature herself. The people clearly love spending time in nature, so why has it taken him this long to take action against protecting the environment? So I think there's definitely a pressure, but also a necessity to have these jobs, especially in an area like Gadsden, when these plants are the only places that really have a big job market for people. And I know a lot of the times they'll offer benefits and insurance and stuff like that. So it is the only option for a lot of people, especially when you need to provide for yourself and also your family. So there's not really a lot of other options around for people to protest how they feel about these plants harming the environment in the way of what job they choose to have. I'm protesting to work for a more environmentally friendly company because that's not really something that's around here, even though the people clearly care about the environment as they spend a lot of time outside, either at the falls, or a lot of people spend time on the river because we have a huge river that runs through our town. And I think it helps people's mental health and just overall mood, and it's a good time a good way for them to spend time with their families or friends and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like, these plants are actively harming the environment, especially if the rendering plant would have ended up being implemented. But I think it's interesting how recently it's just now happened that people have started speaking up about how they care about how these plants will affect the environment, especially in a post-COVID world, because I feel like COVID honestly made us take a step backwards in where we were at with like sustainability in everyday life, with a lot of the single-use plastics and stuff coming back with like the gloves and the disposable masks and all that kind of stuff. And I know even for myself personally, I was a lot better about implementing some of these like actions in my everyday life before COVID. Like, I would always bring recycle bags to the grocery store and stuff like that. But recently, I can remember the first time it happened in 2020, I got refused at the grocery store checkout. Like, they wouldn't put my groceries in the recycle bags because they like weren't allowed to touch them or whatever. And I know that's kind of stopped like my progress, I guess, and the steps I can take in my everyday life to protect the environment. So I think it's kind of almost like there's this duality of like big action versus small action that's being taken. And I think the protesting the rendering plant was a big step in environmental protection. And I think that really speaks volumes about how important spending time in nature is, especially when we were kind of in the peak of COVID. Because that was a way a lot of people, they use it as a form of escapism, was spending time outdoors. Like, I'm sure a lot of, maybe some of you watching this, your family had like daily walks or whatever if you were quarantined with your family. Like, I know I would always try and go outside at least once a day during quarantine. My dad would go ride his bike once a day, and just to spend time in nature was a big way to help boost people's mental health. And I know, like, I love to go for a run outside after a long day at school or work or whatever the case may be. And the idea of knowing that your environment can be so heavily impacted by the plants that the majority of the people work for, and there's really nothing you can do about it, can be kind of daunting. So I think it's really great that the people really did come together and really push forward to stop that from happening and make their voices be heard and protect the environment that they clearly love and care about and that helps them and that they enjoy almost every day. So yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting take on some transcendentalist ideas in today and in a small local community like the one I grew up in. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you later.